welcome to another episode of Wow You Can Cook. And today, Dr. Gloria is doing a cooking class on a Cuban marinated cube steak, Bistec de Palomilla, with garlic, lime, mojo, which I'm guessing is a delicious sauce.
Yes.
Hello, Dr. G.
Hello, dear heart. And I'm going to give you a Spanish lesson because you're really good at pronunciations. It's palomilla. Think of tortilla. LL
Okay.
is Y. So see, you just learned something else. An
Okay.
LL in Spanish
Silent.
is always Y. So palomilla. Just think of that, like a YA is the English
Okay.
pronunciation. I know. And I went to certain places in Europe, for instance, and they'd say tortilla. And we'd all laugh because, it's not tortilla, but they would pronounce it phonetically. So it's anytime you see a double L, it's a Y, tortilla.
Okay. I
Okay.
think I mixed up on the sneak peek on that one too. Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. So let's first talk about having to do the marinade because I know that Magda already did. Jill, Sandy, did you make your marinade already? Okay,
Yes.
I figured you would. All right. Did you put your meat in it already, or did you just make the marinade?
No, my meat's in it.
Okay, so here's the difference. Let's see. Anybody else cooking? No, just you. Oh, and Linda, you didn't make it yet?
Marinated all night.
Good. That's what I think, Magda. That's what you did, right? Okay. So the difference is, next time you make the recipe, try it both ways. What I did to experiment was I cut a little piece of the cube steak, and I went ahead and marinated it for about an hour, hour and a half. I think it was an hour and a half. And then the other one I did overnight. You have to convince yourself, as I had 2 years ago, marinating everything that you do, especially when you have something that is tough. And let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a tough piece of chicken, and sometimes they're not as tender. Okay, it depends, I think, on the age and how they're butchered. If you do it overnight, that chicken falls apart. It's tender, it's easy to chew, it's juicy. If you do it just an hour or a half an hour when you're in a hurry, it isn't the same. So understand the difference, and the only way you can is to experiment. So when you have a little extra time, cut a piece off, stick it in the marinade, and go ahead and just, pan fry it at that point. The reason that this beef steak de palomilla is so famous and I got the recipe actually from Cuban friends. He's a music director in Washington State when I was in Gig Harbor there helping the clinic out before I went to Ecuador. And we became good friends. And of course, I'm a dancer. So every time he played somewhere, I was there. And he said that the reason that this is the most popular dish in Cuba is that that the Cuban people have suffered so much. They don't have access to most things. They don't have the money to buy it if they do have access to it. And this is the least expensive cut of meat because it's already tenderized. Or if you have to tenderize it, you buy a round steak, which is usually what they use, and you pound the heck out of it. I think we've talked about taking your frustrations out on the meat, and you can do it yourself instead of the butcher. But in Cuba, the marinades are a big thing. The other thing that they marinate in the same exact sauce is chicken. That's why I mentioned chicken. Or they will take ground chicken. Like if you don't want to just constantly be eating a piece of chicken, use the ground chicken or ground turkey. Ground turkey is very dry. I love it, but it's dry, but it's healthy. So use the same marinade for that. Just make the patties really well, or get the thin sliced pieces of chicken, real thin, like you would use for scallopini, or use thin pieces of turkey. Tracy, you had a comment on.
Yes, will you please cover the ingredients in the marinade for the listeners to the replay?
Yes, I was going to, but thank you for being my reminder bell there. No, I like it because sometimes we get going and I don't say it. So in the marinade, since everybody's already made it, I used 8 garlic cloves. If you like it more, or your pieces of cube steak are larger, or you're making more, like enough for 4 or 5 people, you might want to use more, depending on how much you love garlic. You're going to use a little bit of salt, but don't use too much in the beginning. Always remember to taste whatever you make in a marinade before you put things in it, because sometimes if you salt it too much, you can't take it out. Then you're going to use za'atar. Now, all of you in the class, remember that Satar is something I think all of you purchased, didn't you? I know Magda did, Linda. Sandy, you have it too, hon?
Yes.
Okay, and I think even Lori got some, didn't you?
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, you do, and Jill. Okay, so Satar is normally a Middle Eastern dish. Sorry, spice blend, okay? Moroccan, Middle Eastern, whatever. We've used it in other recipes in this class. But it is very well known in parts of Latin America, not necessarily in Ecuador, where I was, or in Brazil, but in Argentina, for instance, it's very well known, and also in Cuba. And I think that's just, the spice traders that went through and came through on their boats and exchanged. I don't know, they must have bartered from some Arabs for Zatar, but Zatar is a nice blend because it doesn't have nightshades and it adds a wonderful flavor. The other thing that Zatar is good for is deviled eggs. If you make deviled eggs, mix a little bit into the deviled egg mixture and then sprinkle just a tiny bit on top to give it color, and that replaces putting paprika or something else that might be a nightshade if you're avoiding nightshades. So then you're going to use black pepper to your taste. Fresh lime juice, that is 3/4 of a cup. Now remember that this is about, I would say 4 cube steaks. My cube steaks aren't very big. The ones I get are about like that. So if you're using more than that, you're using 6 cube steaks, for instance, you're probably going to need a little bit more of the lime juice, maybe a cup. Then a 1/2 cup of orange juice. Now here's another hint. I made it one time. I didn't have orange juice because I don't usually keep it in the house. When I do, I buy the organic little cans that you put in kids' lunch pails so that I don't waste it because I can't have a lot of it because of the blood sugar. And so I made it without it. It's not the same. Trust me. So use the lime juice and the orange juice. And for those of you like Lori that only cooks for one person, or Jorgen, if you're going to make the marinade, make sure that you buy the little ones or buy frozen organic orange juice. Take a spoonful of it out, then cover it good in another container, and you have it in the freezer whenever you need it. But I bought those little tiny juice, I think they're 4 ounces that you buy for children's lunches or for traveling. And then the 4 cube steaks, which is what the recipe is geared towards. Then your oil. Now I have coconut or avocado oil, but you can use, and I have to admit, I cheated. I used pure organic lard. Remember in one of the handouts, I gave you the resource for the pure organic lard. There's only one place in the United States that makes organic lard in glass jars, and they guarantee it. They tell you how their animals are raised, what they're fed, their environment. And it was actually my doctor friends that are integrative medical people that told me about it because they're researching the fact that when our ancestors, like my grandmother who raised me, used pure lard that came from healthy animals, they never had coronary artery disease. They didn't have the high blood pressure that we do. So if you like lard, you can use it, but it has to be organic and you have to know where it is. It's in one of the, I can get the link again, Tracy, if we don't have it for anybody that wants it. But again, you can use, since this is a fatty dish, it's a rich sauce. Hold on, Tracy. You can use the ghee that Tracy just mentioned. That's a really good recommendation.
What
Tracy,
about
go ahead, hon.
tallow? What's the difference between tallow and lard?
Tallow is usually a thicker part of the animal. It's a tougher part, kind of like where the muscles and the tendons are, the fat that they take out of there, where the other one is not.
Okay,
It's
so
more from the fat.
we made a brisket, and
Yeah.
so my son loves to barbecue, and he took, you have to take a lot of fat off of
Right.
brisket, and then he
Right.
put that in like another container on the barbecue when we were cooking the brisket, and it rendered a lot of fat out, and then we filtered it and put it in a jar, and he said that's tallow.
Yes, he's right. That is tallow. But you have to remember that you have to know, in order to use it in a healthy way, you have to know how that animal was raised and fed. So if you don't have organic meat from somebody local, for instance, like when I get my meat, it's local. I know the farm that we get it from, but I couldn't do that before I came to Texas. So, and Texas is known for their beef. So tallow, as far as I've been told is the heavier part of the fat that comes around other parts of the animal versus fat like fat in my arms. Okay, the soft fat, the brown and the white fat. Remember, I wrote an article about that. It's a different type of fat, but it's still fat. Okay, so if you like tallow, it's not a problem as long as you know where it came from.
No,
okay,
I'll stick with butter.
Yeah, I think, well, or your ghee, yeah. But there are some things that taste better with lard. And so if you're okay with lard and you want to get some, then I'll get you the link again. It was in one of the articles I wrote, but I don't read. Oh, I know, it was the article on the oils. I put the link in there as to when I said which oils are healthy and what smoke points and all that. It was in that handout.
Lori
on the oils. Yeah. Okay. Lori, you have a question?
I was just wondering about bacon grease, because I when I cook my pound of bacon, I always take beautiful grease and put it in a little thing in my refrigerator and use it for different things.
I love bacon grease. No. We love it, and so does Brian. And Brian is my sous chef. He loves it. And the same thing goes for that, Lori. Bacon grease is amazing if you're eating that type of fat, but you've got to know where it comes from. Yeah. If you're just buying regular bacon, I wouldn't have it, because then remember something. And the reason that I'm saying what I said to Tracy about the tallow is all of the chemicals that are fed to animals are concentrated in the fat, in the fat tissue. So if you're getting regular bacon, I wouldn't use the fat. We don't. But when I'm able to get it from the one farmer that I know, then yes, we save the bacon grease. I even have a cute little dispenser from Amazon that has a little strainer at the top, so you can put it through and it takes the little pieces out if you don't want them. So it's fine. Bacon grease is delicious, but I was raised on bacon grease and lard, but it was organic in those days. 70-some years ago.
I live in Southern California, and I know there's probably places I could go, but I'm really frustrated right now about eating meat. I don't want to buy unless I see the bone, or even then, if it's not organically fed. And how do you, unless you have a butcher or something, how do you even find food anymore?
You don't. It's not easy. We have one, but we're not always able to get from him. If you're in Southern California, you're in the San Diego area, aren't you?
No, I'm in Long Beach.
Oh, okay. I know Long Beach very well. I was raised around there. Okay. Escondido has a lot of farmers that have natural meat, but that's all I can tell you because I haven't been there in a while. Okay. So you're just going to have to search them out. It isn't easy right now, but thank you for that question.
Okay.
Okay. So if you've already made all of your marinade and you've marinated your meat, you've used whatever oil you've chosen. But also remember that you have to have some kind of an onion in order to make you saw the pictures of how I put the onion in it, right? And so you're going to put the garlic and all the other ingredients, the salt, the za'atar, the pepper, the lime, orange juice into the marinade. Now I put my marinade in my small food processor because I like everything chopped up. I don't want chunks of garlic in it. I want it to be a true marinade. Then you've marinated your steaks. Now you're going to put the onions into the skillet with your oil. Get them, as we always talk about in this class, get them where the tips are just starting to get brown. Remember that when an onion doesn't have at least a little bit of tips that are brown, you don't get the depth of the flavor. All you're doing is softening the onions. To get the real flavor, they've got to have brown tips. And I don't mean burnt, but that takes a little patience. Sometimes when I'm in a hurry, I don't do it. I just wait until they're transparent and the flavor is not the same. So you're going to, now that you've marinated, you're going to go ahead and heat your oil, saute your onions, and when it's hot, remember when it shimmers, we call it the waves, the waves of wellness in the skillet. When the oil is shimmering, then it's time to put in your meat. And don't overcook it. You don't need to. It's already been marinated. And go ahead, Linda.
I was reading through and I was confused on that. Because it said take the onions out and then do the meat, but do you leave your onions in and put the meat over the onions?
You can do it both
Okay.
ways. The reason that it's good to leave them in is because then they're part of the gravy when you start thickening it, when you take the juices from the meat. But some people don't. They take them out and then they add them back in after they thicken their gravy because it's easier to use the whip to thicken your gravy when you don't have the onions in it. That's the only reason for that, Linda. But that's a good question.
Oh.
You know, if you're trying to whip something and you've got chunks of onion, it's not going to be as easy. Because you don't want the onion like pulverized. You want it in chunks like the photograph showed. Okay, so Sandy, you doing okay, hon?
Yep. I'm
Yep.
up with you.
Magda, boy, she's so good. She catches up with us all the time. The one that has to wait is Jill because she's at high altitude. How you doing?
I started mine early today, so my onions are ready.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so are they getting brown tips?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead then and put in. Are you going to make your gravy? Oh no, you're going to make your gravy. So do you want the onions in the gravy or do you want them outside of the gravy? How do you think it's easier for you to thicken it?
Probably in.
Okay, then go ahead and put everything in the skillet, cook your meat, and then you can make your gravy afterwards with all the drippings from the meat and from the onions. Go ahead, Linda. You don't, yeah, if nobody's talking, go ahead.
I did 4 slices of onion and then the rest I chopped up. So when those are kind of brown, should I take those out? Because don't you put those on the top like for serving?
Yeah, I would, because you're not going to be able to make the gravy with the big slices.
The
See, that's what I'm
recipe-
getting at.
And the recipe says to remove the onions before
Yeah,
you cook
because-
steaks. And in my opinion, if you're gonna sear a piece of meat and there's an onion in the way, it's not gonna like have that good sear with the pan.
The connection. It's not going to have the connection with the skillet. I've done it both ways. It depends on the skillet too, Tracy. When I use a cast iron, I don't have a problem. If I use another skillet, it doesn't do well because it doesn't make the contact. You're right. And I don't like making my gravy in cast iron. I make it in a ceramic coated quadruple layered skillet because I don't like making my gravy in the cast iron, but that's a personal preference. It doesn't matter. It's just what works best with your stove of anything. And since I have a crummy electric stove in this apartment, I have to constantly change skillets. Okay. So Magda, is yours in already, hon?
I'm cooking the onions right now.
Okay, so we'll wait. And Sandy, are your onions cooked?
Not quite.
Okay, so let's wait a little bit. Let's wait a little. So let's talk a little bit about chicken. If you were doing chicken and you're going to marinate like chicken thighs or chicken breast, I would leave the skin on. And here's a big misconception. When everybody, and Tracy's talked about this in the past, everybody went in that craze of not having fat years ago. Okay, and we need fat. Our brain needs fat. When everybody went into that craze, everybody was buying boneless, skinless chicken breast.
You still are.
And yeah, and so what is the best to do in order to get the flavor and the whole benefit of what's in there? That's why chicken soup is so good and so healthy, because it has a lot of nutrition if the chicken is a healthy chicken. If you don't want to eat the skin, cook it with the skin and take it off after. You've got the flavor. You don't have to eat the skin, but get the flavor of the skin, which I do a lot. I take it off. And my guide is my liver. Because remember, when I got so sick after my accident, it was my liver that shut down. So for a long time, I couldn't do the extra fat. I couldn't do the butter. I couldn't do the ghee. I had to use just either olive oil or avocado or coconut. Once the liver healed, then I was able to tolerate it. Otherwise, I had terrible pain, like somebody would punch me in the liver. So you have to pay attention to your body and what it's telling you, understanding the language. So if you're not having trouble with that, cook it with the skin on and then take it off. But when you marinate chicken, I'll get you in a minute, Christine. When you marinate chicken, you take your frustrations out again. Get a knife and pierce the heck out of it, because otherwise the marinade doesn't get into the meat. That's the reason that this marinade works for the cube steak, because it's already tenderized. It's already got all that chopping in it. So make sure you pierce whatever it is that even a pork chop is delicious with this, but you have to pierce it. Christine, go ahead, hon.
Can you give me a little bit more information on using the marinade on ground chicken, ground turkey, ground beef? Do you leave that overnight as well, or is that?
No,
Okay.
that's a good point. No, because it'll fall apart, literally. It'll get gooey. So in that case, yeah, it will. It'll get like glue. And so in that case, go ahead and just marinate for maybe a half an hour at the
Okay.
most, and then pour the rest of the sauce over it in the skillet. After you start browning it, when you're going to make the gravy, then put some extra marinade in it. Yeah,
Awesome.
and that goes for chicken and turkey. I haven't tried it with pork because I don't do real well with pork right now. There's times I have, but right now I don't. But I'm sure it would be delicious because when you have orange juice for the sweetness and the lime for the tartness, it's delicious. That's why a lot of the the mojito recipes that are Cuban and South American are so good because you've got the sweet and the sour. You've got the blend of the two, the savory and the sweet. So yeah, that's a good point, Christine. No, it'll become glue. I've done
Okay,
it.
thank
It
you.
becomes glue.
I wanted
you're
to show
welcome.
them this. Remember, you guys, we use this.
That's
Be
the one I
careful,
told you
though,
that I
just
bought.
stabbed myself.
Oh,
That
Tracy.
tenderizer you told me about.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's amazing. Have
It
you
looks
seen
like
that,
Yeah,
Christine?
I got one.
You got one? No, I got it on Amazon, and Tracy got one, and she put the link out. It's just as good, if not better, than those fancy machines that they put the meat through in the meat department. It's amazing. It's so good because it just breaks everything down. I've actually taken a pork chop in the past, not right now, and used that to break it up because pork chops can be tough. And I don't have an easy time chewing with my jaw. So what did you do? Poke yourself? Lori's laughing. Okay, come on. Fess up.
I
You
was going through some of my equipment and I found that thing, Tracy. And I go, what's
Oh.
this for?
I just poked myself just now.
Totally forgotten what it was for. I go like this.
Yeah, it's very sharp, but it really works. And I like that particular one. I've had other ones, but this has the guard. So when you put it in your kitchen drawer with all your utensils, you don't cut yourself. You don't poke yourself. But it is dangerous because it does have real sharp edges, but they're not expensive. And Tracy found it right away on Amazon. So I think, Nancy, didn't you get one too?
I have one.
Yeah, I
Nancy.
thought you did.
now.
Yeah, I remember you saying you got one. So
I keep it in
okay,
the
so
box.
how are you kept it in the box? Nancy, it doesn't do any good in the box.
No, I take it out, but I leave it so I
Oh,
don't
you
hurt
take it out of the
myself.
box. Okay. Okay. No, you won't hurt yourself if it's in the drawer. But you can when you're using it if you're not careful. Okay. How are we doing? Jill?
Doing good.
Linda? Magda? Pretty
I
good?
have a question. I have a question.
Yes? Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so my onions are brownish, they're soft and brownish, and I want to make the gravy thicker. So I made that slurry stuff that you talked about. So
Okay.
when do I take the onions out of the pan and then put the slurry in?
This is where you have to decide. I prefer the onions out of the pan because you can use your whip in your pan easier to thicken it. You don't have the obstruction of the onions. But that's up to you. I have people that leave the onions in. What did you use for the slurry, Magda? Did you use rice flour or just regular or gluten-free? Or
I used gluten-free all-purpose.
good, that's what I did. Yeah.
The
Now,
recipe says
do
to
all
take
do
the
all of you
onions
know the
out.
difference? The what?
The recipe says to take the onions out. I'm answering Magda.
Okay, that's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she took them out. So remember that white rice flour is higher in carbs, but you don't use a lot when you make a slurry. I always use white rice flour when I'm making something that I want smooth and silky, like a smooth and silky gravy. If I'm making a chunky sauce, like in this one, use the all-purpose flour, the gluten-free flour, because it's got more bulk to it. It's got more body to it. The other one is so fine that you want it only for fine things. Like if you're making a sauce for fish, for instance, and it's a real light sauce, use the white rice flour. I love it for that. And I can make a meal for 6 people and use 1 tablespoon of white rice flour. So it doesn't affect blood sugar and it doesn't feed candida because you're not using enough of it. You divide 1 tablespoon among, a serving for 6 people, it's not enough to sabotage your diet. Magda, you have a question.
It got really thick. What do I do about that? There's no way this is great, like a ball of.
Do you have some beef? Do you have some beef broth?
Yeah, I have a little more.
Okay, put that in.
Okay.
Yeah, put that in so that it doesn't get too thick. See, that's why you have to really watch it and use your whip in your pan. That's one reason that it's nice to take the onions out, because you can see it, swirl it, and adjust it easier. When you've got the onions in, you've got that obstruction.
And you can also add butter. I might add butter to it.
Butter? Okay.
Have you yeah, that's what I always add. My grandma taught me how to make gravy with the slurry with the, or what is that paste when you do the butter and the flour together? What's that called?
The roux?
Roux.
The roux. Yeah. I always make my roux with half butter and half coconut oil because I have to cut down on the butter. So I make it with both. And she's right, it's delicious that way. But again, you can make the same roux with white rice flour for thin sauces, and then use your all-purpose flour for something that's chunky and a little more intense as far as the thickness. Okay, so I see everybody so busy there. Jill, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm making my beef broth right now, just quickly.
Oh,
because I
okay.
use those no
Linda?
beef bouillons.
Yeah, the bouillons and no beefs. Yeah. Oh, the ones that I told you about that don't have
Well, I was
nightshades.
already using them, but I love them.
I
have
love
the
them.
veggie, the chicken, and the no beef. They're just all really
Me too. Has anybody tried the jar of the Zoop?
I didn't get that.
ZOUP? Oh my gosh. Tracy, have you tried it yet?
No.
I need to order.
It is, okay, it is like you make your own homemade broth, chicken or beef, with the bone broth of that as well. And it's so thick, it's like caramel. It's a little glass jar. And it is absolutely amazing. I get 2 at a time from Amazon, and the flavor is so different. So what you have, Jill, I use like in soups. I don't want to use the real thick one. So I use those for soups and something that's pretty generic. But when I want a nice thick sauce and I want the richest sauce I can get, I use the Zoop, ZOUP.
I'll order it when I get moved. Once I'm moved, I'll get one of these things. I didn't want to.
When are you moving? When are you moving to her?
The end of August. The end of August.
You're going to Florida, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Wow. August. Okay, Sandy, how you doing, sweetheart?
My gravy's almost done.
Have you tasted it for salt and pepper? Make sure you taste it when it's almost done.
Okay.
You may need to add some.
All right.
she's so cute. It's real intense in there in the kitchen. You doing okay, Linda?
Great.
Yeah, I don't need no more salt.
No, it's okay. How about pepper? It should have, okay, it should need more pepper because it needs to be peppery.
Sandy, how much salt did you use initially?
How much what?
How much salt did you use initially?
Whatever I put in what the recipe said.
Okay. It said, I think it was one
teaspoon.
1 teaspoon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 teaspoon. And how many steaks are you doing, dear?
I'm only doing 2.
Okay, so see, if she used a teaspoon and she's only doing 2 steaks, it's going to be a little salty. So you might have to add it. I mean, if it's okay the way it is, fine.
I think I only used like me half of a teaspoon.
Okay, good. Yeah, just remember, if you cut it in half, cut the salt in half too. Nancy, you had a question?
You know, I was just going to add that za'atar, that seasoning, I had to add the cumin in it because it didn't have it. It was organic, but
oh, see, I got mine at Amazon and it had the cumin. But that's a good point. It should have the cumin in it. Yeah. The za'atar should have cumin and then the sumac. And also a lot of the, for instance, French Polynesia uses the sumac a lot. Tahiti, Bora Bora, those particular islands, and they don't put the cumin. It's only the South Americans.
Yeah, this one
that
doesn't
use
have
the cumin.
cumin either. This one has
It
coriander,
doesn't?
marjoram, sea salt.
Does it have
citric
cumin at
acid,
all?
Oregano.
Okay, see, the one I have only has the 2 ingredients. So
Yeah,
if you want to
marjoram,
add a pinch of,
coriander.
if you want to add a pinch of cumin, do so, because that's what makes it more of the cumin flavor. Does yours
Oh,
have
wow.
cumin, Magda?
No, I had to add it.
Okay, add a pinch. Start out with a little bit. Hold on, Nancy. Start out with just a pinch, literally, which is hard to measure. Have any of you seen the measuring spoons that have a pinch, a dash, and a, what is it, a pinch, a dash, and a, I don't remember. Have you seen them?
No.
The measuring spoons are absolutely adorable, and I give them away as gifts usually because people say, well, how much is a pinch? Well, it's a pinch, a dash, and a, I don't remember what the other, I'll run and get them in a minute. Okay, Nancy, what are you laughing at?
Well, I was at Ralph's Kroger's last night and I found the Zatar and I read, so this morning when I was making the marinade, you said add 1 teaspoon. So I did that to my marinade. So you're saying just a pinch. So I'm like, is that going to be?
No, a pinch of cumin if it doesn't have it.
Well, that's
Not
what
of the
I'm
Zatar.
saying. I put a teaspoon of cumin in it.
It'll be fine. It'll
I
be
love
fine.
cumin.
I do too. And the worst thing that can happen is that you have to add a little more broth to thin it down. That's all.
Okay.
Because the cumin, when you thicken the sauce, is delicious. So don't be concerned about that. Just go ahead and thin it down a little bit if you need to.
My
Okay, how we
Zatar
doing?
doesn't have either cumin or sumac.
It doesn't?
No, neither. It has oregano, white sesame seed, lemon peel, sea salt, lemon oil.
I'll get up in a minute, and Brian's gone, so he can't give me the. Oh, Brian, are you still here?
Yeah, this doesn't have
The
cumin.
Zatar. See if you can find it before his ride comes.
I'm gonna look it
his
up. I'm
medical
gonna
ride.
find the right one for all of us.
What's
You guys-
sumac?
Yeah, because I bought it on Amazon.
Okay.
I got this one. It's organic spicely Zatar. I was concerned because it has sesame seeds in it.
Yeah, it does have
That doesn't
sesame.
matter.
Okay.
That
And
doesn't
it
matter.
says it has sesame seeds, however you say it, sumac, and thyme and
Sumac.
marjoram. And that's all
That's
it has.
okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a little different. It's just like when we talk about curry, when we talk about
Yeah.
chicken
Oh,
curry and the curry, every household, I swear, has their own recipe. I have 2 recipes that I use, and I mix them ahead of time, and I say curry 1 and curry 2 because they have very different flavors. Don't worry about that. The main thing is get the basics, and the cumin is very important in with the sumac. So if you have sumac and cumin and you end up with marjoram and a bunch of other stuff, don't worry about it. Did you find it?
Sorry, I think you might just need to send them.
Okay, he can't find it. He's getting ready for his medical transport to take him.
Hi,
so
Brian.
Thank you. They're here. Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Tracy says, hi, Brian.
Hi.
Okay, dear heart,
Thank
take
you.
care. Have a good session. Okay, so Sandy, are you ready yet? Have you thickened your gravy?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so how is it? Have you put the meat back in and the onions, or?
I just put the onions back in. I'm getting ready to put the meat in.
Okay, go ahead and do that, dear. Magda, where are you? At what stage?
So the meat is in the pan. And that's it. So what?
And your gravy was thick, so did you put the onions back in?
No, not yet. Should I?
Yeah, go ahead and put them in. Once the gravy is done, your meat is back in, put your onions in. You want the onions to absorb the gravy, the
Oh,
flavors of all the spices and herbs and the gravy.
okay.
Yeah. Jill, how is yours coming? Did you get your
I
broth
went
in?
ahead, I waited and I just now put my onions in. I took your advice and waited to put the onions in. I just tucked them back
Uh-huh.
in and I'll put the meat in. So yum.
Okay. Well, I want you to do your normal tasting routine so that Christine can see it, because she hasn't seen you.
Okay.
You haven't seen our Galloping Gourmet, Christine. You've got to see this.
Oh, now she's embarrassing me.
You don't
No,
get
not-
embarrassed, Jill. Come
We're
on
among
now.
family. You don't have to be embarrassed.
Okay.
Yorkie, I have a question for you, dear. Can you use the marinade and do it with vegetables? Because it's delicious with them.
Mm.
Is there anything in the marinade that you can't handle with your diet?
I'm not sure if you're asking me.
Yeah. Well,
have-
it's orange juice and lime juice, and then the za'atar spices, and
Yeah,
then
the link
za'atar
tracing,
is pretty
that's fine. The link for these ingredients and lemon
okay,
and
and then the garlic and salt and pepper. So it's pretty basic. It would be really good with your vegetables if you
I've-
marinate them overnight and then grill them or saute them. It'd be delicious.
yeah. Salt. I normally don't grill, but I only
But
cook.
you saute. Yeah, you saute,
saute.
right? You put them in a skillet. Okay, so you can try the marinate with your vegetables and let us know how it turns out.
Yes, I will.
Okay, good. Yes, ma'am. Christine.
Speaking of marinating the vegetables, if you put them in the skillet with the meat, for those that can do both, would that be okay, or do you need to keep them separate?
Absolutely. No, it's okay. But what I would do is like zucchini. I love zucchini with this dish. So if you're going to use zucchini, slice it thin. And what I would do is marinate it a little bit, like maybe while the meat is cooking or you're browning the onions, have enough marinade so they marinate a little bit and then add them.
Okay.
So that they're soft. Okay? Yeah. Now, you probably haven't heard me say this, but because I've had jaw surgery, I don't have the ability to chew a lot. I don't have the strength because they cut the TMJ joint. So I have to steam everything. So even zucchini, unless I'm making soup that I'm going to use my blender, my immersion blender, I steam them a little bit. And if you do that, it's also good because then it absorbs the marinade more, and then they're almost cooked almost immediately when you add them to the meat and the gravy. So you might want to do that. You can even steam them the night before, stick them in the refrigerator, and then just do them right when you're doing your meat.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
Like
you.
carrots, there's no way I can eat carrots unless I steam them. So I slice them thin and steam them, and then you can add whatever. Yeah, that's a good way. Broccoli's really good with it. Green beans. Yeah. I even used bok choy one day because that's all I had, and it was delicious. Dawn, go ahead.
She's frozen.
Dawn, go ahead, hon.
She's frozen.
Oh, she is frozen with her hand up.
That's cute.
Yeah. That is cute. That's a good picture. Okay, Sandy, are you ready to taste test?
In just a
She's
minute.
plating. I can see it. I can see her getting ready to plate.
Oh, she came back. Dawn, do you have a question?
Okay, Dawn.
Yeah, I have a question. So the
Yes.
zucchini, do you marinate them the same thing as what you marinate the cube steak in, or what are you recommending?
Yeah, but not as long, because just like
Right.
to Christine's point, if you marinate them too long, they'll become mushy. So
Yeah.
just make them, like al dente. Yes. So save a
Okay.
little marinade, and then maybe while you're browning your onions and your meat, let them marinate just for that length of time, and then put them in, or steam them ahead of time like I do, and I leave them just where the fork goes in pretty easy so that I can chew them.
Great, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
You're gonna have to cook
Okay.
the zucchini after it marinates so that you're not marinating vegetables in something that raw meat was in, right?
Right, you make extra marinade. You don't put it in with the raw meat.
Oh, good. You're scaring me for a minute there.
No. You make extra marinade so that if you're gonna add vegetables.
I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna make
I have
jerky with that marinade. I'm gonna
that would be really good. You'll have to tell us. Yeah, I can't make jerky here right now, but you know what? I'm worried that I probably couldn't. I used to make it all the time for my boys. I probably couldn't chew it right now.
Oh yeah.
Once I get my new teeth, I will. Right now, I don't think I better. But that would be a good marinade because it's got the two flavors, the savory and the, oh yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
try that.
Okay, whoever's ready to show and tell us. Show us. I think they're all plating because I can see Jill working away there.
Yes, I am.
We're good. Go ahead.
Oh, good deal. Linda, let's see, sweetie.
Linda's looks.
Oh, wow,
big.
that looks
Yours is
pretty.
much. But I like the onions on the top that I kind of,
I do too. I do
Yeah.
too. The rings that you did, yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, now taste it. Tell us
Yeah.
how it is, because it's a very different flavor, especially with the za'atar and the
Nice,
sweet and
Magda.
sour.
Where'd she go? She's trying to
Where'd
show
she
her
go?
stuff and she's got that fake background and it's disappearing. We can't
We don't see anything,
Magda.
Magda, but
Hold it in front of your face. There you go. Look at that.
now, okay, now a comment. Yours isn't as brown
Oh.
as Linda's was.
I
Okay.
think, I
You-
think it's
so you-
because I soaked it overnight and there was a lot of juice in the meat already. And so when I put it in the pan, all that juice came out.
Okay, so when that happens, this is just so that we can learn. When that happens and it's got a lot of the juice or the water that's coming out, right? Put your fire on higher. Don't cover it. Make sure you don't cover it. Let it just absorb some of that and it'll still brown. Because
Okay.
you've got the orange juice. The orange juice caramelizes in the skillet. So you just have to make sure you burn off some of that liquid.
Okay.
Okay. How is it, Linda?
oh my gosh, I love the lime. The lime. I definitely pick
Isn't
up.
it a nice, yeah,
Mhm.
nice. Do you pick up the za'atar?
No.
Can you get, no, maybe you need a little more in the
Yeah.
sauce, especially. Yeah, because if you don't taste a little bit of za'atar, you probably need more in the sauce.
I probably.
Okay, who's ready?
Oh, who's going?
Well, go ahead, Linda.
Okay,
I
Finish.
probably
go ahead,
ended up,
hon, finish.
when I was making the gravy,
Uh-huh.
I probably ended up putting about a cup of broth. Well, it would have been almost a cup and a half because it was so thick. So I have a lot of
Of gravy?
gravy and because of a lot of the beef broth, it may have made it darker.
Right, right.
Okay.
Ah, good point. Yeah, but it should be a nice medium brown, even a little darker brown. So, Magda, have you tried it yet?
Yeah.
How is it?
I don't know. It tastes a little
Honestly.
salty to me.
A little salty?
Yeah. And I did exactly
Salty.
everything that you said here in the recipe. So I don't know what.
How many steaks did you do?
I did 5, but I cooked 4, but I marinated 5.
Okay, all you have to do is add some lime juice and make a note in your recipe. Don't forget to make notes that it was too much salt for you.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
add lime juice. It'll take the salt away immediately. I mean, just mix some lime juice in it or squeeze some on the steak and it takes that salt away.
Okay.
Okay?
I have a
Sandy,
question.
how you doing?
Oh,
Sandy?
it's a number 10.
Our scale's only 1 to 5.
Nine.
Oh,
If you don't
Really,
taste
i-
the
is it-
za'atar, can you sprinkle more on after the fact, or it has to be cooked in it?
You can always, that's another good question. You can always sprinkle it in, but make sure when it's hot.
Okay,
The only time that I do it cold is like on deviled eggs.
okay.
It something about the deviled egg mixture and sprinkling it on top is fine, but that's a personal preference, Christine. It doesn't have to be hot or cooked. It's
Okay.
like, think of it as paprika, okay? Think of it that way. If you can put paprika on something, cold, you can put za'atar, okay? Hold on, Nancy. Sandy, did you taste it, you said? And it's a 10?
yes.
And it's not too salty now?
No,
No, okay.
no.
So then
I
Magda
love
had
that.
it too salty.
I love that sauce.
Do you? Do you have a
Yes.
lot left? Yeah. So see, when you make your sauce, don't use the one that the raw meat is in, but when you make your sauce, make a little extra and put it separate in a little jar so that if you want to try it with a different meat or you want to put it on vegetables, then you have the sauce made and it's not the one that was with the meat.
Yeah, I have
Did
some
you have
extra.
another?
I
Do you?
have extra, yes.
Oh, okay, good. Then just put it in the refrigerator. Don't leave it out. Keep
Okay,
it cold in a jar. I always just label it with a little bit of painter's tape, and then I can go, just like my homemade Worcestershire sauce that all of you made. I have
Right.
a big, good sized peanut butter jar of that, and I just made it. I just made a fabulous zucchini soup with it and tried it before I added it and after, and there's no comparison. I mean, I doubled the amount of Worcestershire and it was delicious. And
Oh,
just
wow.
actually, I made it so that Brian could have it before he went to therapy. So it's really good. Okay, I'll write the recipe. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Hey, Nancy.
Okay, who's
I just,
Nancy
I
has a
just,
question. Then well, wait a minute, because can you wait just a minute, Nancy?
Sure.
We've got Jill there with her hot dish.
Yeah, I
Show it
wanna
to us,
see it.
dear.
All right, so there it is.
Yay.
That's beautiful. Take a
Brown's
bite.
beautiful.
it's so
There
good.
was a lot of sauce, and here's the taste test. Mmm, yum. I love the lime too.
What do you?
Mm,
You like the lime too?
I
Can you
do like
taste the
Linda.
za'atar?
I do. Mm.
You do. So you should be able to taste the za'atar, but very faintly. It shouldn't be like, oh, I can taste it. Should just be a little hint of it that you get when you swallow it, when you chew it. So it's a winner. Do I get a 10 on that one too, like Sandy gave me?
You do, and the onions taste so good in the sauce. It's just really good. That brown sauce turned out beautiful. So another
Good.
10 for Dr.
And it
G.
Thank you, dear heart. And did your sauce get real thick? Did you have to thin it like Magda did?
I did. And so I
Okay.
took a little bit of the orange juice and thinned it. So it's a little sweeter than I'd like. I think I could have used just a tad of my good filtered water to just make it just right.
Okay, if it's a little bit too sweet or too salty, squeeze some more lime juice in it and it'll take that away.
Mine was not too
It's,
salty, but I had cut it in half because I only did 2 cube steaks as well.
Ah, okay, perfect, perfect. Nancy had a question and then I'll get to you in a minute, Linda.
And Jorgen. There's lots of questions.
Oh, okay.
My
Go ahead, Nancy.
My question is about salt. Do you use the real Celtic salt for everything, or do you different use?
No, I use the pink Himalayan for everything, and I use the Celtic salt with a pinch underneath my tongue when I need to be able to ensure that I'm absorbing my water. Remember that Celtic sea salt, with the mineral content that it has, and we talked about this, if you just use a pinch, like when I scan people and they're dehydrated, and they go, I can't be, I'm drinking a gallon a day, Dr. G. When they start putting a pinch of the Celtic salt under their tongue, just kind of let it dissolve. A couple times a day, the water goes into the cell. It forces the water into the cellular structure. So that's the only time I use it. And otherwise it's the good pink Himalayan.
So I have actually white natural Himalayan I bought from the health ranger that I use sometimes to add lemon juice and stuff. I do what you said under my tongue. So, but with the real salt, that's all you use it for? You don't use it cooking at all?
You mean with the Celtic?
Yeah, with
I don't
the real,
cook with
they
Celtic,
call it
yeah.
real salt.
And if you bought white salt from the health ranger, he's got my 100%, 1000% endorsement. He's right here. He's about 10 minutes from me.
So
and he's
real
a
salt?
That's
This
what I'm
one?
talking about. Yes.
Okay.
Is that what you use?
I use this a lot for cooking. This is what I use primarily for cooking. It is the Redmond salt, and I think this is one that is from the mines in Utah. Salt Lake.
It is. It is.
I have the same one.
That's this. And then
Yeah,
I
it's very good.
use it
Yes.
for under the tongue.
So
For
you
under the
do
tongue,
use
yeah,
it.
the Celtic.
You do use it, Tracy,
Yes,
for cooking.
yes.
I've been doing that
And
a lot. So.
yeah, Tracy uses it, and the white sea salt from the health ranger is amazing. Yes. He's a food
Tracy-
scientist, ex-military. So whenever he says something has been tested, I trust it.
He does have pink though, I noticed the other day, but I have a big bag of
Doesn't
those.
matter. Doesn't
Okay.
matter. It just comes from different salt mines. Doesn't make any difference. Okay, Jorgen.
Hang on. Tracy, can you hold,
Just,
Tracy, can you hold the bag up again so I can screenshot it?
Amazon has it, by the way.
Yeah, it's called Real Salt. Redmond real, REAL salt.
Okay,
put it
thank
Got
you.
it? Okay. Jorgen, go ahead, hon.
This sumac flakes, can you explain what that is? I can't
Yeah.
translate it.
Sumac is the actual herb that comes mostly from Indonesia and the West Indies. And if you just buy sumac, then you should add a little bit of cumin if you want to get the whole sumac flavor. Like what
I'm
mine
not
has.
sure.
Mine
So
has cumin.
So it's a herb. You say it's a herb.
Yes.
Okay, that's good
Yes.
enough for me.
Yeah.
And please,
Thank you.
why do you use Himalaya in the food instead of Celtic? What is there more minerals in it, or?
There's more in the Celtic. I swell. Everybody's body's so different. Like Tracy and I have said many times, that we're so bio-individual, and my feet swell if I use Celtic all the time. If I use the real salt or the Himalayan, they don't. So it just depends on how your body metabolizes it. It's not that one is better than the other. I think
Thank
this
you.
Celtic is probably the best of all of it, but I can't use it all the time. But
Okay.
Celtic does hydrate the cell. So that's why it's so good. Okay? Does that answer you?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, who do we have left? Jill, go ahead, hon.
I just want to speak to sumac. I have sumac bushes in the yard up here. And so
Oh.
it's really I know. I will be sure and cut some off before I leave. But it's a really neat bush and they're kind of red and
They are.
burly. They're really interesting. So, you know, I can go out and
So
cut
make
them
sure
sumac.
when you cut them, okay, here's another hint. When you cut them,
Okay.
make sure that when you move, are you driving or flying?
Driving, we gotta move.
Okay, put your roots, your plant, in a little bag with a paper towel around it that's wet. And do you have it one of the old black devices?
I don't. I just have one. I'm waiting on my next device, so I'm excited to have two.
Okay, put a device on it while you're traveling so that it doesn't die.
Okay.
And then as soon as you get to Florida, stick it in water or stick it in soil that's already been wet, because in Florida it'll thrive. It's tropical. It's going to thrive. I couldn't grow it in North Idaho. I tried. I had patients that sent me cuttings and it never lived. Even in my greenhouse, I couldn't do it.
We're so dry in Wyoming, but it gets watered by the sprinkler system all the time, so that probably helps it. And it's old.
I tried everything and I couldn't do it. Yeah, that and stevia I tried to grow and I couldn't in North Idaho. So, okay, well, make sure you do that to your plants. Use your device.
Thank you.
And keep it close to it so that it can give it the strength it needs so that it can be transplanted. Okay?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Magda, were you able to correct your dish so that it's not so salty?
I sprinkled, I squeezed another half a lime over it and it's better now. But I got the plantains and I'm going to make those tonight, and that should offset some of the saltiness as well, because these are going to be sweet with cinnamon and sugar. So
I love plantains with that. Do you just pan fry them?
Yeah, in butter.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, and plantains are what they serve along with rice usually in Cuba. So you're right, it will take some of the salt, but just make a note in your recipe to cut the salt down.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Any comments anybody that's been cooking? Comments? Sandy gave me a 10. Linda?
It's one of the best so far.
Okay, so with you're eating a lot of vegetables, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Linda? Okay, use it as a marinade. Make the marinade and tell us how it does with the vegetables for you. Okay, because it's really good that way. Okay, Jill, any closing comments, dear heart?
No, I think it's delicious. Another fine recipe from Dr. G straight to me and you.
You guys want to hear what's up for
Thanks,
next
Jill.
Yeah.
Yes, tell us what's up, Tracy.
I will
Give us a
tell
sneak peek.
you. Sneak peek for next week. Let me find it. Creamy vegetable Indian korma.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
So you're going to get some exotic flavors next week.
Great.
It's easy and it's good. So
Okay.
make sure that you look at your recipe ahead of time so you have everything that you need if you're going to cook with us. If not, just join us and have the fun. See,
Yep.
Christine, you don't have to cook. You can still have fun.
Well,
It was
Unless you
delightful.
Did you
come late.
enjoy?
for
Did you
having me.
enjoy our sense of humor today?
Oh, this was great fun. It was very nice. I appreciate all of you, and it's so fun to see you guys doing your things and getting to know you even more just by watching you be you.
it's a
Good.
fun
Thank
class.
you so much.
Fun.
Appreciate it.
Well, we
It
love you
is.
guys so
Oh.
much. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you again. Bon appetit.
Bye.
Bon appetit. Love you all. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Bye.
Night.
Hi, Steph. Hi, Steph.